This is called to order. For today's invocation, we're going to take a moment to count our blessings. Not only is March 15th the birthday of our county clerk, Pam Palmer, it is the birthday of Barry County. So on March 15th of 1839, the Michigan legislature deemed it necessary to create a county of Barry. And the act was signed by Governor Stevens T. Mason. John and Hoot, you probably were there for the bill signing. No, but today for our opening prayer, let's take a moment to silently thank the Lord for giving us a wonderful place to live with so much to do and so many people that care about us. Amen. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the purposes of attendance, the clerk will call the roll.
Campbell.
Here.
Connor.
Here.
Geiger.
Here.
Getty. Here. Gibson.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Smoker.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Approval of written agenda. At this time, any member of the public or member of the board may ask for an item to be removed from the consent agenda and placed under items for consideration. Hearing no such request, does any member of the board wish to change the agenda additionally? Hearing no such request and without objection, the agenda is approved as written. Reports from state and county officers. Does any state or county officer or their representative have a report to share with the board? Limited public comment at this time. Any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Cindy Twitchell, moving to Prairie Hill, April 1st. Vivian, you and I are going to get to know each other very well.
Aren't you in
No,
Orangeville now?
I don't live in Berry County.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that, Ben.
All of you ran as Republicans, so what does that mean? The question to ask is, are you really Republicans? This is an excerpt from the 2016 Republican platform adopted by Resolution 2020. We affirm, as did the Declaration of Independence, that all are created equal, endowed by their Creator with inalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We believe in the Constitution as our founding document. We believe the Constitution was written not as a flexible document, but as an enduring covenant. We believe our constitutional system, limited government, separation of powers, federalism, and the rights of the people must be preserved uncompromised for future generations. You all took an oath to defend and protect the Constitution, which defends and protects my God-given, not government-given rights. Each time you violate my right, all of our rights, you are placing yourself above God. God have mercy on you. I see you do not have the changes to your policy on the agenda. Smart move. I would like to believe that it's because you believe that they are unconstitutional and therefore mute. There is a change, though, that I still believe that you need to make, and that's the 3-minute unconstitutional limit to freedom of speech. You do not have the authority to violate my freedom of speech, and every time you do, you violate your oath of office. Any case law, court opinion, or attorney general opinion that says otherwise is moot, unconstitutional, and does not have validity. So, as Thomas Jefferson said, if a law is unjust, a man is not only right to disobey it, he is obligated to do so. Your policies are not laws, and the same principles apply. If a policy is unconstitutional, I not only have a right to disobey, I am obligated to do so. Whether you like it or not, I do have the freedom to speak as long as I need to, in whatever tone necessary, using whatever words deemed to express my thoughts. Black's Law Dictionary definition of freedom is the state of being free, liberty, self-determination, absence of restraint, the opposite of slavery. My one last comment is, Ben, you are not above the law. You are not above the Constitution, and you are not above God. Your arrogance was evident when during a recess at one of these meetings, after being presented with evidence where you violated the Open Meetings Act, you said, "So throw me in jail." You dishonor your position as chair, as a representative of we the people, and if you had any integrity at all, you would resign.
Thank you for your comments. Is there further public comment? Hold on just a second. I have to reset the
My
clock.
name is Kevin Miller. I'm from Augusta, Michigan. I'm here to help answer any questions or whatever I can do. I'm interested in acquiring property in Berry Township, Section 7. And on the agenda today, you're looking at A2-2022, which is a request for rezoning on a small piece of property that I'm under contract to purchase. That property is zoned residential right now. I'm asking the commission to approve it being rezoned to a commercial. And that would give me access to a 30-acre plot that sits below this property, which already is zoned mixed-use zoning for residential and commercial. And my interests are to develop this into a marine operation, offering boat storage, services, retail sales, and the like. My experience is, I've been former manager of Gull Lake Marine for 12 years. Prior to that, I've been with 2 marinas on Gull Lake, and I have extensive experience in the boat business. I believe that the Berry County area, especially the southern areas, including Wall Lake and Pleasant Lake, are very underserved by a marine operation, offering services as what I am proposed to do. So I've gone to the Planning Commission. I think they've sent the proposal to folks. 6-1 vote. I did listen to the Planning Commission and some of the people that were there that had some concerns about how this zoning would fit into the neighborhood. I have talked to some of the neighbors since that time, and I do have an amended site plan proposal that I plan to submit to the Planning Commission. So I can offer you guys copies of that if you'd like to see it. If that's any importance to you, we're asking if you have any questions.
So this time is limited public comment. It's for the board to listen and for the public to speak. If you'd like to speak on this item when we get to it, we can make arrangements for that.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Last week, Tuesday and Thursday, does the village?
Hold on just a second, Gary. I don't know if his microphone is on. Can you speak?
Hello?
There's a button right there on the. There you go.
Try it now.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
I
No, last week, after I left, people sat and
Always batteries. You don't remove
the batteries.
batteries.
every week.
Seems so.
Things we buy nowadays, right?
Can't we put the gooseneck one back up there? We got the port for it.
We can.
Let's do that next week or next board meeting. Sorry, Gary.
Next month.
Yeah, next month.
No problem, I just figured I'd ask this week.
Your voice is soft.
Yeah.
Check.
All right, thank you. Hey, does that work now?
Yeah.
All right. Last Tuesday and Thursday, I was at Village of Nashville, went to their planning meeting and their village council meeting. Dogwood Community Development and Community development was in there, and they got planned unit development housing for low-income housing approved. Now they just have to go through the process of getting the monies and everything else, hopefully. After that meeting, or after they finished, they were outside, I actually sort of cornered Dogwood representatives and Bonnie Getty, and I asked them, what would you think of if you had a 4 or 5 acre parcel that has water and sewer right there real close to it, and it was government owned? The look on their faces was, well, where is it at? Well, that property is owned by the county. It's out there on 79 McEwen Road. There's probably more than 4 or 5 acres out there, but there's income. There is a housing need for low income, and it's work housing. It's not voucher housing. So I'm sitting there, I told them I'd come out here and present this, and the one over here that they're working on, the Royal Coach, may be losing that. The state right now is questioning. But there's $13 million in tax credits that could move to another location. I don't know all about this. It was just a conversation I had, and I'm not sure with staffing issues that are needed all over the county for county employment, I'm not sure why you wouldn't look into this as soon as possible. I was also at a school board meeting, talked to one superintendent, and I told them about the staffing, and they were just sort of surprised. Is the county looking at getting the superintendents around, maybe having a forum with them to tell them the needs the county has and the job opportunities the county has? It's not going to happen now, but if you don't do it now, before the school year ends, they can't plan for the next school year. But if you have staffing needs, you need to look at all possibilities. The housing is huge. Imagine being able to walk to work. You know, it's one of those things. I think some things like this need to be looked into. So did I say my name? Gary White, Village of Nashville? Okay. And, all right. Thank you at this point in time.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Good morning, Charles Hertzler, City of Hastings. First of all, I'd like to thank Vivian for that copy of the lawyer's report. That was very kind of you to have that and to give it to me, and I appreciate that very much. Hopefully everybody's had a good week. I'm trying to not get too excited about this. All right, my main concern about this is on the agenda today, we're having a presentation by the Blue Zones people. And I went through the packet, and I copied off a few of the pages and stuff, because there was a lot of interesting stuff in there as far as I'm concerned. It's my understanding that the Blue Zones get rent-free room at the county health department. So that was kind of interesting to me, that we're not supposed to, they're not part of the county as far as anything that the county commissioners or the county taxpayers or anything are supposed to support, but yet we're letting them have free room and board at the county health department. And then when you go through here looking at all the people working for them, there's a lot of county employees working with the Blue Zone people. Are they doing that on county time? Are we paying them to be working with the Blue Zones people? I have a concern about that, because you're going to come after us for money for jail, and yet we're spending money on things we shouldn't be spending on, this, from what I see. I got a lot to learn, I know. These are just concerns. I just don't know why we gave this money to the Berry Community Foundation, because they're a 501c, to give to the Henry Trail to be paved, or to the Blue Zones to be able to do a study that's already been done on the feasibility study, according to their own records here and stuff. Why we gave them that money, I don't know, through the Community Foundation, but by law, the Community Foundation now has the ability to charge them a fee for handling that money, like a bank would. So that means the Community Foundation is going to profit from this. There's just a lot of things here that I question, because I don't know, but it doesn't sound right. It doesn't feel right. I don't know if that makes sense or not. You know, you come up with money to be able to renovate the law and courts building and this building and everything else, but we can't find a way to put money into putting up a jail without having to raise the taxes on people, especially with gas going up, inflation going up. The school board's wanting May 6th to have a special election and do another bond issue. How much money do you think that people in this county want to give up? I mean, this is really a serious issue. I hear from a lot of people because they know I want to run for county commissioner now. And it's, you know, I don't have an answer for them. Why can't you guys come up with it, tighten the budgets, do the job that you're hired to do or appointed, you know, elected to do? Spend the money responsibly. Okay, we need a jail, let's find the money to do it without having to put it on the back of the taxpayers anymore. And my time's almost up, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Rochelle Smith, and I am running for state representative in the 43rd District. That covers 7 townships in Berry County here. I just wanted to come by and introduce myself. I live in Martin Township. My husband and I have 3 adopted boys, and we're partners in our family's 2nd generation dairy farm and grain elevator. And currently I represent the Township of Martin as their clerk. I have been a township clerk since 2015. And serving at the local level, I understand the importance of local government, and the people locally understand that best. If elected, I will do my best to protect the people that I represent from big government overreach, which I feel particularly we have all been impacted by over the last couple of years, and to be a conservative voice in Lansing. I am a Christian, conservative, and I will fight to protect life, liberty, and our constitutional rights. So I just wanted to introduce myself, and if there's any way that I could help get to know you guys better, I would be happy to do that. Thank you for your time.
Welcome to Berry County. Is there further public comment? Hearing none, we'll move ahead. Various correspondence. Does any commissioner have any correspondence that was to share with the board? Consent items.
Mr. Chair, I move for approval of March 8th, 2022 Board of Commissioners meeting minutes.
Support. Motion by Gibson, supported by Smelker for the approval of the items listed under the consent agenda. Discussion is not allowed and roll call vote is required. All those in favor will vote aye. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk will call the roll.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The consent agenda is approved. Next, we have presentation from Cheryl Lewis Blake about the Berry County Blue Zones annual report. And just to answer some of Chuck's questions, yeah, we do partner with Blue Zones on county time. When we have goals that shared goals, of course we're going to use nonprofit, non-taxpayer help to achieve those. It's a win for the taxpayers and a win for the community. So the reason that we're seeing a lot of the Blue Zones overlap is because a lot of our missions are the same, especially in public health. So turn it over to you, Cheryl.
Thank you so much. And I'll just mention before I start on the presentation that the funding for Blue Zones Activate actually came from the community and from donations in the community. Philanthropy like foundations and individuals. And I'm a volunteer, and so Allison Wiswell would be here today, but she's on medical leave. And so in the spring, she said we will make sure we go to all of our elected officials, county and city and townships, to give them an update. And so that's my purpose today. Well, you probably know that since the fall of 2019, Berry County, and notice I said county and not the city of Hastings, launched the Blue Zone initiatives. And the goal, I mean it is a lofty goal, to transform our community into an environment where healthy behaviors are encouraged. Not mandated, just encouraged. And hopefully we will all live longer and healthier lives by making healthy choices. So before you today is an annual report, and it summarizes the accomplishments and the activities, and I wanted to highlight just a few of those for you this morning. So Blue Zones is not a one-person show. It's a county-wide involvement, and there's actually 9 action teams doing the work. And I'll talk about the work in a minute, but in addition to the work that's being done in the county, There's members from all sectors of our county that are involved in the work. So, of course, there's some community leaders, there's nonprofit agencies, there's schools involved, Michigan State with their expertise, the Michigan Department of Transportation, DOT. We've got farmers involved, the hospital and No Surprise Health Department. But I want to make sure that I note that there are a group of passionate volunteers throughout the county and outdoor enthusiasts who are involved. Now, the action teams have been working together in the past year to make sure that the work is collaborative and coordinated based on prioritized projects. And so I'll just mention a couple things about the work. First of all, there has been an initiative in Middleville called Complete Streets Policy Implementation. And the concept there, it's in policy, is to have streetscape that includes multiple users, not just cars, so you can walk to work. There are pedestrians, children, ADA, freight business, bicyclists, and seniors. It's the idea that we should be able to get to where we need to get for shopping or for work, and that the street policy reflects that. Also in the county is, I love this project, Maple Valley Schools. They're doing a project called Safe Routes to School. And the goal is to increase student activity, improve traffic safety, reduce transportation costs for the school, use local partnerships, and then provide accessible and inclusive education, including physical activity and mobility options. And so they're working both with Fuller, Maplewood, and the Maple Valley Junior and Senior High School. And so we know about the trail plan, so I won't spend much time on that. But remember, we shape our communities, and then our communities shape us. And so amazing that the Berry County Parks and Rec Commission is doing so much work, and it'll be exciting this year to see the work on the $1 million for trails. There's also been a community food center feasibility study, and there were 4 areas that focused on: food skills, food environments, food culture, and infrastructure. There was a huge marquee project, and the essence of what came from that was, let's do a food center, at least let's study a food center. And on page 34 in your book, it describes in a graphic what the food center is, and that involved a market study and some financial analysis. There's also a mobile project. Yes?
Before we go on, can you talk about what the necessity is to have a study like this before moving forward with a project like the food center?
Sure.
So a lot of our constituents have asked about that.
Yeah. So the idea of doing a feasibility study, so what if a group of 80 people come together, right, farmers, different groups of people, say, we think we need a facility in the county where we can aggregate our produce. We think we want a farmer's market under a roof. We need cold storage. So it's one thing for people to say this is what we want. It's something else to see if it makes sense to do, because you need to find enough volume to be able to support something so it doesn't become a drain on anyone, government-wise or otherwise. And then you need to find locations. So the feasibility study was done to bring people in who are experts in the field, and there's been food centers and other communities around Michigan and across the country. And so phase 1 of that was done, and that's actually in the back of your book, and you can look at the details. There's a second phase, and that really is, okay, now we need to have rubber meet the road. If people are interested, who's going to rent it? Where is it going to be located? What's the financial model that would work? And so that's not done yet, but that is going to be starting now. And so within 6 months, within a year, we'll have that information. And then we'll have a decision to move forward or to not move forward if the feasibility study says that it's not a good thing to do.
Thank you.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did, Cheryl. Thank you.
All right. So there's also hunger relief, and we have a marvelous way of doing food, providing food for people in this county. But there's also some areas where there has been a real gap. And so doing a mobile relief has been something that is being worked on. The hospital has been doing culinary medicine. There's a new program launched in that. Delton's busy doing school gardens, and there's been marvelous funding and enthusiasm there. And now there's a brand new food council. So my time is about up. Let me just mention two more things. I think it's important when we talk about change that it's not individuals, one or two people who say, oh, I think I want to change. But there's really groundswell support. And so I've lived here for 13 years, and I am astonished at how much engagement there has been around the Blue Zones project. And so whether it be the YMCA, the Wellness Center, volunteers, like 40-some volunteers at the fair working, farmers market volunteers giving out free samples and recipes, doing one-day pop-up demonstrations that townships have been interested in doing, 48 volunteers at another event, meal planners, newspaper articles, cooking videos. We've got a volunteer that does cooking videos. There was a purpose workshop, and then United Way and Blue Zones distributed thousands of packets of seeds a year ago last spring. So I think I'm a practical person as well. So all that theory is great, but how do you go about the funding, and how do you make sure that you can impact folks? So there's also a sheet in there that describes how much money people have been willing to give in the past year. And so there was $30,000 grant for the Safe Routes to School program, $68,000 for the feasibility study, $24,000 for the countywide trail plan, $5,000 for the mobile food delivery landscape analysis, $100,000 for community food center planning and a capital campaign, $50,000 from Blue Cross Blue Shield and the Michigan Endowment and the Kellogg Grant, and then of course the ARPA funds. $1 million will make a huge difference in the trail system. So with that, I'll end by saying thank you for your service. I love, Ben, that you opened up with our reflection on saying what a wonderful community and a beautiful community we live in. So I appreciate all the positive work that is being done, and don't lose faith. We'll just keep going. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm going to open up for commissioners if you have questions or comments. But we deal with problems and tricky issues a lot on this board. And what Blue Zones has helped us see is the positive things in our community and help enhance them. So this is, to me, the most visible thing that Blue Zone have done. They've highlighted where our strengths are and where the real value can be added. We've definitely seen Blue Zones active in the community. We know you guys are working. That I'll open it up to questions. Catherine, do you have any questions or comments?
My only comment is, obviously, I've been active in Blue Zones. It's been, it hits a lot of my interest areas. The biggest thing I think Blue Zones has brought to us is a catalyst of projects and programs and interests and endeavors that have had grassroots support throughout the county. Blue Zones has brought that into a model that we can implement. And it's been a tremendous service to the residents of Berry County. So, and like Cheryl said, almost all volunteer effort and privately funded through people's donations that believe in the effort.
Thank you. Commissioner Smelker?
I have nothing. Thank you.
Commissioner Gibson?
I have no questions.
Mr. Connor?
Thank you for all your hard work.
Mr. Jackson?
Good morning, Cheryl. Question for you, as I know that it was Blue Zones Activate. What is the process? I know that when we started, it was like a 3-year process. Unfortunately, COVID landed right in the middle of that, which had to tap the brakes and rethink strategy. But what is the path forward now? Are we still in Activate phase, getting to?
We are still in Activate. That's a great question. So now, where do we go from here? So there will be an additional campaign that is done in this year to do another 3 years to be able to do a full Blue Zones project. And so we'll be talking with grants, of course. There's organizations that are being talked about. It's interesting that there is businesses that are really interested in wellness programs for their employees, and so there'll be more to come on that. I'm hoping, in fact, I'm pretty confident that there'll be funding to move forward on the project because of all the good work and we have such a track record of already getting grants.
Okay. As far as like stickers on food in grocery stores, Blue Zones parking, things like that, I mean, it's easy for me to get lost in the ho-ho aisle, so I need some help getting to
Yeah.
vegetables once in a while. So is that visible?
That
Will there be
is.
visible signs?
So there's a lot of pieces that we have not implemented yet because, as you said, COVID happened, right? And so the work with grocery stores and working with businesses and working with other distribution of food is paramount. And so in other communities, we haven't chosen to do this yet, but in other communities, they have worked with grocery stores to map out the stores and encourage people, and you can come in, you can actually get a card that says, here's the better stuff to eat. Restaurants partner with Blue Zones, and then there's healthy choices there as well. Schools and other entities that provide food like the hospital transform and work with their cafeterias. And so there's a lot of opportunity yet that we haven't even, and the Power 9, there's a graphic in your information, in your booklet that explains the opportunities. But we'll have to work with the community to determine what those are, because we're also not interested in doing a cookie cutter thing of, oh, this is what they did here and we're going to put it in Hastings or Berry County. No, it has to be what the community members, as Catherine said, want to do in the place that they live and work and play.
How is the acceptance countywide? And I know you mentioned Maple Valley, Delton, some of the outlying
Middleville.
areas, Middleville.
Yeah, I have been really impressed with the amount of encouragement. So I was a little surprised this morning because there's not anything about Blue Zones that says what people have to do, right? It's all about trying to make your community a vibrant place where people want to live, work, and play. So I found good acceptance. And yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Commissioner Campbell.
I have no questions. I would like to say thanks, however, for all the many, many volunteers that are involved in this. It's so nice to see that many people trying to do the betterment of Berry County, which is what they're doing, and I look forward to it continuing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
All
Cheryl.
right. Thank you so much.
Moving ahead, public hearings, we have none. Items for consideration.
I move for the approval to authorize the county administrator to approve claims on March 22nd, 2022.
Support, Jackson.
Motion by Campbell, support by Jackson, for approval to authorize the county administrator to approve claims on March 22nd, 2022. Discussion. So this is the normal procedure that we do when we cancel a board meeting, as we are doing later this month. It authorizes the administrator to do those routine bills. Michael, did you have anything to add?
No, you expressed it very well.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. The clerk call the roll.
Connor.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smoker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The item is approved.
I move for the approval of Resolution 2205, resolution to delegate authority for maintenance of lake level of Crystal Lake.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, supported by Gibson, for the approval of Resolution 2205, a resolution to delegate authority for maintenance of lake level of Crystal Lake. Discussion. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
And Doug.
Good morning. Good to see you all again.
Thank you.
All right, so the legislature deemed it necessary for a circuit court judge and a county board to set a lake level, so I guess here we are. What do we got going on?
Okay, back in the early 70s, the court set the legal lake level for Crystal Lake, and they directed the drain commissioner to set up a special assessment, gave us assessing properties, but they didn't bother to appoint us as delegated authority. These people, we've done the inspection on their outgoing dam. Within the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to end up having to replace that. So I went to the people and I said, hey, if you want us to be delegated authority, sign a piece of paper, and it's in your packet, that explains you would like us as delegated authority. If you don't, that's fine with us. We got no skin in the game. If somebody else wants to step up and give it a shot. So we had one meeting with their board, and we got about 65% of the people just that quick to sign saying, yeah, we want somebody that can run this thing. So,
I guess the only thing I would add is that the way the statute reads now, this used to be, this is a prior statute. It looks like it's similar, but it's up, the Part 307 has the county commissioners appoint the delegated authority, then the court sets the lake level and confirms the special assessment district. So there seemed, while this old order from 69 implies that the drain commissioner is the delegated authority, there's really there's nothing in our file. So we tried to find it, there's nothing in the file. He's the delegated authority. This is really housekeeping. I hate to put it that way, but it's more important than that, given the number of signatures to it. That document that you're looking at really has no legal import. It just is supporting. They needed it. They want a delegated authority.
Yeah. So. I told them I'm not going to the commissioners unless you give me at least 6. Any petition for lake level stuff by people has to have 60% of the people. We got to have people on board.
Yeah.
And I said I'm not going to go up to the commissioners and say, yeah, just appoint me because you feel like it, or it's Tuesday. So they were like, oh yeah. I said it's a technicality, kind of. But for us to do anything for them legally, we probably ought to be the delegated.
So what's the situation with the water? Is it too high, too low?
No, Crystal Lake, they've got a few issues going on. Back in when Tom Doyle was in, they have two lakes there. The lower lake, which is the one for fishing and everything, the upper one's a sediment catch, basically. The sediment catch blew out back in Tom Doyle's day. He went ahead and fixed it and assessed everybody. The law doesn't say you can do that unless you're delegated authority, but once the assessments are paid, the people can't go back and bucket.
Right.
Russ got a permit, or started down a permit to clean the sediment pond out back when he was in. So we proceeded with it. We went to the commissioners at that time and said, hey, you've got to allow us to spend over $10,000 to do it, which people wanted. Technically, we didn't have the power to do it, to come to the commission. And the assessments were all paid, everything was squared. I don't want, going forward, knowing that we ain't delegated authority, to come to the commissioners, put them on the hook for this, and then somebody come to court later on and say, wait a minute, you weren't delegated authority, you couldn't do this work? Now it's on county.
Yeah, I think the board appreciates this system that we have now, that you're up here regularly talking about the issues.
Well, we miss you guys.
Yeah. Vice Chair Connor, you represent this area. Do you have any comments on this lake?
No, it's just since 2015, with all the water problems, we've found a lot of these little weird intricacies in these court orders that leave something out or don't give a full, but we just need to clear them up so that we can go forward doing this work.
Great. Any other comments or questions from commissioners? All right. If there's no further questions, then we'll proceed to vote. The question before the board is approval of Resolution 2205, a resolution to delegate authority for maintenance of lake level of Crystal Lake. Clerk will call the roll.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smoker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The resolution is adopted.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry to bother you with it, but it's got to be cleaned up.
Commissioners, do we want to take a break before we go to C? I anticipate C will take a little longer than the others, or do we want to go out of order?
No, I don't want to.
Let's just go ahead. We'll
It's up
see.
to you.
Yeah, let's keep moving. Commissioner Campbell.
I move for the approval of an additional $380,714 from American Rescue Plan Act funds for the public safety 800 megahertz infrastructure project due to inflationary increases from Motorola between the budget estimate of $2,400,000 and the final construction contract price of $2,780,714.
Support.
Motion by Campbell, supported by Smelka, for the approval of an additional $380,714 from the American Rescue Plan Act funds for public safety 800 megahertz infrastructure project due to inflationary increases from Motorola between the budget estimate of $2.4 million and the final construction price of $2,780,714. Discussion. So Commissioner Smelka brought this to my attention, I think it was last week or the week before, and Director Lehman. So we have an issue here. The project that we approved or supported, the cost has just gone up significantly, and staying within that budget would significantly adjust it. So, Director Lehman, you want to explain what's going on here?
I sure do. Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Unfortunately, I'm back again. So when we decided that we were going to apply for a $2.4 million allocation of the county's ARPA funds to provide a public safety communications tower, the budgetary projection at that time, August of 2021, was $2.4 million. Once we had the opportunity to go through the 6-month process here, that's the time that it took. When we got to contract negotiation and contract settlement time with Motorola, the costs of the project increased $380,714. So after 6 weeks of very intense negotiations and back and forth between 911 Authority Board, our attorney, and Motorola Solutions, we tried to come up with how can we do this project? How can we make this work for this $2.4 million and still have it be a win, not only for the citizens of Barry County, but for our public safety community in Barry County, because that's really who's going to see the greatest benefit from this. So we explored at nauseum the option of building the tower and have it connect to the state's radio system, the MPSCS, the Michigan Public Safety Communication System, via fiber instead of microwave loop.
Okay, so just for a second, microwave loop is the better system than the fiber, right?
Correct.
Is significantly?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and I'll get into why.
All right.
Let me get into why. So we started to, Motorola basically and the MPSCS, we started to have a lot of conversations and meetings. Can we do this for $2.4 million? With microwave, the answer is absolutely no, without a doubt. For $2.4 million, we could construct a tower and have it connected to the state's radio system via fiber. So now we start the daunting process of trying to find the feasibility of fiber connectivity, and is that a viable option for us here in Barry County? It is no secret to anyone in this room that broadband connectivity, whether it be via fiber or some other means, is incredibly scarce. It's a rare commodity here in Barry County. The design plan of the towers is very intricate. It goes through several layers of engineering, not only Motorola's engineering, but also engineering through the MPSCS. And so we've made no secret about this. This is just one of 5 or 6 towers that we need to construct here in our community to provide public safety with the coverage that is desperately needed. So if we move forward with the fiber option, we've got the problem with fiber. We've got to make sure that we can get fiber to the site location. That's going to create some additional construction, trenching, some additional cost, not only to what I'm going to refer to as the green site, the new site that we're proposing that we build, but also to the current infrastructure that's on Swift Road just south of M79. We will have to have fiber connectivity to that site as well. So not just one site, but 2 sites. So here's the real kicker with the fiber. Not only it's going to be additional construction, additional costs, it's scarce in Barry County, but when we build even one more tower, whether we share a tower with a surrounding community, and I am having some initial conversations about that this week, the feasibility for that. When we have one more tower in this community, the fiber will have to go away and we will have to put the microwave up anyways. So after we did all of that work, we went back to the table with Motorola and said, what is the bottom dollar? What is the lowest amount of money that we could take to, that it would take to make this tower what we need it to be, connected by microwave loop. And our Motorola rep is here, Mr. Irwin. I beat him up pretty bad over the last 6 weeks, and I beat his boss up pretty bad over the last 6 weeks, and that's where we came up with the $2,780,714. There's another kicker for that. So during our intense negotiation with Motorola, they have said that they will honor the cost projections that they provided us in Q4 of this year. But this offer expires March 29th of this year, so I have to have a signed contract in place with Motorola. Q2 of this year, all of these tower sites go up to today's market value. So for fiber, it's $3.8 million, and for microwave loop, it's $4.4 million.
So the price is going to double if we don't do something today.
It is. It would be absolutely wonderful if we were in a position where I could secure the funding for all of the infrastructure that we need. Unfortunately, that's not the reality of the financial climate that we are living in. So let's talk about fund balance, because I know there's going to be questions. Can 911 come up with any money to offset some of this additional $380,000? And the answer is no, and here's why. We've got a touch over $600,000 in liquid cash, and we have $300,000 that are in investment accounts. We still have to go through the land acquisition process. So right now we currently have the area of 3 general vicinities, 3 locations that we would like to place a tower. Obviously, if we're only going to be able to get one, we want to get the biggest bang for our buck. We want to cover the most area, the vast amount of population that we can. So we have to go through the land acquisition process. We have to be able to secure the land, and there's some testing that has to come with that. We might find a location that's great, and it might not pass the land survey studies. There might be some special species or a tree or something that inhabits that land, and that process is over, and we have to start over. So the 911 authority is going to have to pay for the land. The second huge cost is going to come from the current infrastructure, the tower, which I'll refer to as 5802. It's the tower that sits at Swift, south of M79. That tower was erected, construction started in 1998, and it finished in 1999. Berry County does not own that tower, the state of Michigan does. The tower is going to have to go through what's called a load capacity study. It is my understanding that tower is presently loaded to 101%. And once that load capacity is done, it's going to have to go through a structural analysis, meaning that the structure changes, significant changes are going to have to be made to the concrete and the steel at the base, potentially the guide wires that help stabilize the tower, the anchors that help
Well, how is
stabilize.
this our problem?
Well, here's how. So we're going to have to pay for that. We're going to have to pay for the
Why?
because we are going to be making the changes to the tower to put our equipment on that tower. So structural analysis in today's market runs anywhere between $50,000 and $300,000. So it just depends on what is specifically needed at that tower. So all of the same equipment that's going to go on the new green site, the proposed tower that we're building, will have to have that same equipment on the current infrastructure. That's what makes the system simulcast. So those towers are in constant communication with each other, and they're able to provide a broader range of coverage because of the equipment, the dual equipment, and the GPS components that will sync those towers together. So that's really the long and short of why 911 does not have the money to cover this additional $380,000.
Well, I appreciate you bringing this up. I'd like to give Commissioner Smelker the floor. He's our expert commissioner on this, and he brought it to my attention and wondered if it was appropriate to bring it to the full board. And I said, yeah, we're going to have a lot of questions, though.
Yeah.
Commissioner?
My main thing is on these 800 megahertz towers is, in my way of thinking, it's not going to make our 911 office any better. This is better for the people on the road, the deputies, firefighters, EMS, so they can get in contact with 911.
And each other.
And each other. And I have been in the position where you're out there all by yourself. It's not a good feeling. So I feel this is a great opportunity and a lot cheaper now than it will be.
Yeah.
So this needs to be done. And the one tower will help. And as Stephanie says, we are working on the second tower. And then we also have the one in Nashville and the one down south.
So let's address the technical questions that the board or the public may have, and then we'll get into the finance ones. Does any commissioner have any questions on the technology or the scope of the project? I guess I do. The site locations, what's the process you've had in mind, or the process you had when you applied of when the site will be selected? You can tell us generally where these sites are?
Sure. So I have a coverage map. I brought it with me. This information is not mine, though. It's Motorola's. It's proprietary, so I'm not able to share it. So I'm just going to walk around. I'll try to talk really loud so everyone can hear me. This is our current coverage map. You see all the areas that are in green and white? Those are holes that we have where we are not receiving adequate radio coverage. This didn't just come up this year or last week because Stephanie Lehman said so. This has been an identifiable need in our community for my entire career here, which spans 15 years now. I can't talk about previous administrations and plans for growing our current communications infrastructure, but I can tell you that unfortunately COVID-19 wreaked havoc on it. Unfortunately, we were in a position where responders were not able to go to their offices. They were not able to come to our office. They were not able to meet face to face in a lot of situations. And so we relied even heavily more on an already over capacity, a radio system that's over capacity. So we identify a need. We have a gaping hole. I don't know how else to more eloquently or more professionally to put that runs from east of Middleville, north and east of Middleville, to north and east of the village of Freeport. The whole state game area. Dalton gets a little bit of coverage from this tower down here, and then down here in Assyria Township.
Yeah, just generally it's spotty coverage in the middle 60% of the county.
It is. So right now we are currently looking at a location, we're scouting a location that will provide coverage for Middleville and Freeport. One that will provide location, it's a location that's just outside, it's in Rutland Township, it's outside of the city of Hastings, but to provide coverage to...
Looks like Hope Township is really impacted.
In the Dalton area. So the first page here, this is our coverage. So we need to cover here, we need to cover here, and we need to cover down here. Here is what, in a better climate, our radio coverage would look like. This is with 7 sites. So we're going from...
Still a lot of green out in my area.
There sure is. We want to migrate from this to this.
Can I just ask the Motorola rep, we want to respect confidentiality in the agreements that you have in place, but what's the best way to have the most robust discussion with respecting your proprietary map?
I don't quite understand the question.
Can we talk about where there's bad spots and where there's good spots?
Most certainly.
Absolutely. Okay. Can we recreate this map, just a general one that could be disseminated to the public?
I would have to talk to Motorola leadership and see, but I don't.
Okay.
I'm sure we can find something.
Because this is now a public policy issue, and for, the readers of the newspaper and those looking out watching online, they're going to have questions. So if we could work on that after the meeting, that'd be great. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. Where did I leave off at?
You're showing us the map of
Okay.
scary dead zones.
Yeah, so back to where I got started. This is not something that just came up the day that I became the director of 911 in 2017. This has been an identifiable need here in our community. So 4 years ago, I was tasked with coming up with a viable solution to make this better for public safety. And this is what we've been working on for 4 years. But we also identified that there are a lot of other large critical needs in this community. So we've been waiting to see what happens with some of those initiatives and efforts. So because of that, we've not gone back to the taxpayers, held public meetings and said, hey, here's where we're at, here's what we need. I do anticipate that will happen sometime in the future. And so through ARPA funding, this was an opportunity for us to continue our research and to get started, because we know that this one tower, this specific green site, is not going to solve It's not going to solve the whole problem, but it's a move in the right direction. About a year ago, Berry County Sheriff's Office responded to a fairly serious incident within the village of Freeport, and they had zero radio reception, not only on their portables, which they're handhelds, like this gentleman is carrying right here. Those are some of the lowest wattage radios on the system. So those radios, radio towers have a harder time receiving and transmitting their traffic because of their power output. So a mobile is an actual radio that's inside of some type of apparatus, whether it's a patrol vehicle, a fire truck, an ambulance. Those are a little bit higher wattage. But anyways, back to my point, Berry County Sheriff's Office responded to a fairly serious incident in the village of Freeport, and there was the probability for an officer to seriously be harmed. And they had to go to their patrol vehicles and call us from their cell phones because they had zero radio reception inside the residence and outside the residence, which stinks. That's typically unheard of, but atmospheric conditions can create issues with that. And so after that happened, after I had a conversation with this deputy, like, hey, what are you doing about our radios? I started having conversations with the 911 board. We can't wait on this forever. We're gonna have to figure something out. The other thing that I need to make sure that everyone understands is we have two disparate radio systems in Berry County. We have law enforcement that's on 700 and 800 megahertz, and then we have our fire and EMS where their primary means of communication are VHF, which creates an interoperability issue. If we were able to get into the climate where we could have the infrastructure that we need, the 7 sites, we could migrate fire and EMS, including paging and toning for fire and EMS, so everybody could be on 800 megahertz. And for an interoperability purpose, I mean, that's really ideal where we want to be. The other thing is Allegan County has already done this. Kent County has already done this. Eaton County has already done it. Kalamazoo is in the process.
The migration of fire to...
Well, I don't know if they've, I don't believe that Kalamazoo has migrated fire paging, but Kent and Eaton and Allegan have. Kalamazoo's in the process of building their towers. They're doing their infrastructure expansion right now. I'm actually meeting with the Calhoun County 911 director and sheriff this week. We are going to start talking about the possibility of sharing a tower at the county line to help cover some of that ugly coverage issue that we have down there. And I know that Ionia County is kind of in the same boat that we're in. We have to prepare and plan for emergencies whether we want to or not. It's not a fun topic to talk about, but unfortunately that's the reality. That's the reality.
And I think it gets back to what Commissioner Smelker talked about. It's a scary feeling. I have not been for a frontline responder, but I can imagine if you're somebody that's a first responder and your radio's not working and you have to find your cell phone.
The need for public
scary.
safety in our community is not decreasing. And that's a whole separate conversation and a whole separate set of analytics. If anytime anybody ever wants to see those, I'm happy to share them. And so this is a step in the right direction for us to invest in the public safety community. If we have a public safety platform, communications platform, where our responders are able to get their information more efficiently, more effectively, and they're able to communicate with each other more efficiently and effectively, they're going to be able to be more prepared to be able to respond to help all of us in this room today.
So let's go into more structural questions about the project, and then we'll get into the funding. Commissioner Getty, do you have any questions or comments?
Is there any current or anticipated state or federal funding to help install these towers? I assume that we're not the only county around the country that is struggling to meet the needs of our first responders.
So we are not. We are not. There is a current legislative effort that I believe came from the sales tax surplus during the COVID-19 pandemic, and that's actually more to come from me. I have the first meeting to start to discuss if that would be viable, a possibility for us here in Berry County, and it's looking like that's going to be a joint venture between us and Calhoun County 911. And so, but we just have our first meeting this coming Friday. So maybe moving forward in the future, yes, but at the time when I applied for ARPA, no.
And we need 4 more towers, right?
6.
6 more
So
towers.
the one that we presently have, this green site that
Just
we're
focus on
proposing.
this one today.
And
I
then
know, but
5 more. And then 5 more.
Sometimes I just have the philosophy of you just get done what you can get done when you can do it.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I feel like that this tower is, it's our time for this tower.
Thank you. Commissioner Campbell.
I really don't have any structural questions.
Commissioner Jackson.
Can I ask another question, not structural?
Sure.
Going through all of the details, and there was a lot of them in there, I noticed there's not a competitive bidding process with towers.
There is not.
So why is that there's not 3 people presenting us with options for towers?
So this tower will become a part of the MPSCS. It'll be Berry County owned, but it will become a part of the Michigan Public Safety Communications System. MPSCS is the state of Michigan's channel partner, is Motorola Solutions.
Okay.
So we do not have, number one, the manpower, the resources, the finances, the educational aspect. I'm a pretty technical person. I know what I need to know to do my job, but I'm not a radio technician. I'm not an engineer. So this is not something that could be grassroots or homegrown to speak. We couldn't just put together our own radio department. Eric Mulvane is here. He's our network and systems administrator. Eric's technical skill set vastly outweighs mine. And between Eric and I, there's not the capability for us to build our own tower. We don't know enough about it to erect our own tower and contract with steel and labor and a cabling company, and then we got to worry about connectivity. But in order for this tower to talk to the other towers, and the tower in Wayland, the tower in Sunfield, the tower in Plainwell, the tower that's going to probably be built in Bedford, all of the surrounding towers, for us to have that coverage, get that coverage from those towers, and to have those shared resources, it'll have to be a part of the state's system. So 911 will have to enter into a support and maintenance contract, an oversight contract, if you will, with the MPSCS. And that contract's going to run about $7,500 a year just for them to have oversight of the tower, respond if it alarms, respond if there's a power failure or some type of outage, and then any repairs that would need to be done on the tower that would be post-warranty will be at time and material. The state doesn't make any money on that. So I'm sensing your question there, and so basically, for lack of a better way to phrase that, Motorola is the only game in town.
Okay, so Motorola is the contractor with the state to
Correct.
provide every tower and the communications that go with it.
Correct.
But this tower and Motorola Communications also connects us to Allegan, Kent, Calhoun, Kalamazoo, surrounding as well.
Correct.
Okay. And frankly, I appreciate you putting together the details that you did. I'm surprised. That's one of the reasons I wanted to tap the brakes on round 2, because with the government printing money like they are, with inflation being what it is, I just kind of had that feeling that we were going to run into something like this where metal prices, steel prices, everything going in this is going up. So, but
In my lifetime, I've never seen inflation doing what it's done right now. And so I wish I had a crystal ball, because if I had known that I needed to ask for $3 million, I would have asked for $3 million. And I got to tell you, when Motorola came back to me as we started to hammer out the details from the contract and said, we're not going to be able to do this for $2.4 million, my answer to him was, make it work. Yes, we are. What I'm not willing to do, and the reason I'm standing here today, is to move forward with a tower connected by fiber when I know in a year or two I'm going to have to come back in front of this same body and say, well, now we have to change over all this equipment, and here's what it costs today's market value. The difference between fiber and microwave is this right now, $400,000. What's it going to be next year? What's it going to be the year after? That unknown is too big of a risk for me to take, and quite frankly, I'm not going to risk coming before this board and having you feel like I didn't do my job.
thank you.
Vice Chair Connor.
All of these towers that you just gave Dave locations, or Commissioner Jackson, the locations of all these towers, they're all going to be microwave?
They are.
And didn't we just spend a lot of money within the last 6 or 8 years laying fiber?
So we have fiber at the 911 center, but one of those components to that fiber is for our 911 call delivery only. So that's how our 911 calls are delivered to the 911 center. There's nothing else that can tap into
Okay.
that
Okay.
specific.
So it's the people calling, not
Okay.
the,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's-
it's a good question,
that's-
Commissioner.
Yeah, that's a great question, Commissioner Connor, so thank you for that. So that's how our 911 calls are routed to the center, and we can't have anything else on that fiber. Only, not administrative lines, not private lines, not
Okay.
any radio connectivity, only the delivery of emergency calls.
Okay, structure, those are
Yeah.
the only questions
Yeah, it
I
was
have.
basically non-financial questions.
So those are the only structure questions I have.
All right, if you have a question in the audience, stand up, ask your question, then I'll repeat it to the microphone.
Larry asked, how long is the Motorola contract good
The question was, how long is the Motorola contract good
Oh,
for?
this,
Is the contract for these towers through Motorola, and I kind of wanted that explanation, is that added infinitum, or is that got an expiration date, where that option will be open to competitive bidding again? That's the question I've got.
oh, their contract with the state of
For the
Michigan?
state of Michigan, yes.
I can't answer that.
I don't currently know. The last signed contract was the latter part of 2020, and I know at least they at least go 5 to 10 years, I believe.
Okay, 5 to 10 years?
At least, yes.
How could we find that out?
The state DTMB, I think they oversee all the contracts. When I worked in the governor's office, I saw these contracts quite normally. And, yeah, you'd have to go through the state central purchasing department. That's a good question. Mm-hmm.
Mr. Bass, the state's radio system is the second largest P25 radio system in the world. A lot of other states and municipalities come here for information, and they're mirroring their state's programs off of things that we've done here in Michigan.
Additional questions?
I was wondering, you said we're gonna need more towers? How much is each one of those towers gonna cost?
I haven't gotten there yet. Jameson, is that your last name? Mr. Jameson? I haven't gotten there yet, but right now,
One tower costs a couple $1 million, you're talking 5 or 6 more, that seems like a lot of money.
Yep, the market value right now for one tower, Q2 of this year, in 2022, is gonna be about $4 million. So you're absolutely right.
Got a question passed to me. Are these towers 911 exclusive, or can they also be leased to cell phone providers?
So we don't want to put any cellular providers on our radio equipment. Potentially a broadband, as in one single provider, we could put a broadband provider.
Like a franchise agreement?
Yep, it would have to be a pretty stringent agreement. We wouldn't want any cellular providers on these towers because the potential for interference is going to be too great.
Okay.
Eric, anything you'd like to add on that?
And if you do add something, if you could please come to the microphone and introduce yourself.
My name is Eric Mulvane. I'm the Network and Systems Administrator at the 911 Center. Just kind of clarify with the interference. Cell phone signal and our radio, their frequencies are completely different. And their angulars, or I'm not sure how to put it, the angularity of it is different. For the radios, we want broad coverage, so they need to go out. And for cell phone, they're looking for the fastest coverage, so they're coned down. And so we're trying to go out as they're trying to go down. Any sort of intermingling right there
So
just
it's
causes
the wave angles.
Yeah, intermodulation. So basically, it would be a radio transmission.
Well, how many syllables is that word?
And I'm going to pick on the
Intermodulation.
sheriff. So if I'm transmitting to the sheriff's, if I'm transmitting to the sheriff's portable from the 911 center, I'm going to say something like Barry Central 801, and I'm going to hear myself. I'm going to come across as loud and clear. But if we have some intermodulation between our radio frequencies and cellular frequencies, he's going to hear and we refer to that as digital traffic. So it will have interfered, and the transmission will not be received.
Mr. White, you have a question?
Actually, that's two things. One, you're paying for structure in this thing, and then you're gonna have people without the knowledge of Motorola systems going up there. There's no reason to have cell phone on there, because it's just not good. If they mess something up, who would pay for it?
Well, the other thing that we've not technical security and then physical security of the tower. So unfortunately, we have to be mindful and we have to have contingency plans for bad actors. So we couldn't just be allowing everybody to have access to the tower where they could potentially get up there. And I mean, if you want to create some mass incident in Berry County and wipe out our communications, I mean, unfortunately, that threat is real. Other communities have seen that happen.
Other one is, this is the commissioner. If you approve this today, is it a done deal, or are you going to put it on your consent agenda for the next meeting? Can they move forward?
Yes, they can move forward. The question was, if we act on this today, can it be approved today? And the answer is yes. Commissioner Smelker asked me to put it on the agenda for today, so the board could take action and get it done today. So it's just an example of, we can adapt our process to urgent needs like this. Questions over here? Yeah, Commissioner.
So on the tower, the Swift Tower, whatever you called that, 780 something or other.
5802.
Oh, 5802, sorry. Is there other things on there that are by any other company, or is it just state propriety type items that are up there? You said that all the new things that we would be adding to it, we have to do this study because of the concrete and the weight and all of that. Are there other things up there that are by other?
That's a great question, and I'm not 100% sure what's all on that tower. I'm going to take a stab in the dark and say that it's going to be public safety related, because that's the primary purpose of that tower, and the state owns that tower. They have very stringent agreements in not just who can access the tower, but also tower climbers. I know of several companies that the state won't work with. They're not allowed to climb their towers. And so if your question is gearing towards, will we make sure that our equipment and our investment will be secure, I'm comfortable saying absolutely yes.
Okay. Yeah. I just didn't know if they contracted with other entities to use the towers.
Oh, Eaton County has some equipment on that tower, because that tower sits right here.
Yeah.
And it covers partially into this county. And we actually, I think in 2018, we put what's called a TTA, a tower top amplifier. Eaton County and I, that was a joint venture between us to help the tower to receive and send portable radios. It gave us a little bit better coverage, specifically indoor is where we have problems, but not enough, not enough. And so there is some Eaton County equipment on that state-owned tower.
Okay.
But it would be similar, very similar, if not an exact replica of what we are going to put on that tower.
Okay. Thank you.
We've gone an hour and 15 minutes. If there's no objection, we're going to take a 5-minute break and come back with some questions on how we'd finance this. Hearing no discussion on the additional $380,000 to finish the microwave project for this 800 megahertz tower. Let's talk about funding. Commissioner Smelker, do you have an idea or a proposal on where we would get this extra money?
My idea was to take another $380,000 out of ARPA funds. I know that will shorten some up for phase 2, but this project, I believe, is important enough, and with the extra $380,000, the project will be done exactly as it was told to the public. And if we switch this over to fiber or something, we are not giving the public what we said they were going to get, and I'm not for that.
With the fiber system, that's just a lower quality. But
Yeah.
what are I know this is a technical question, but I guess we have to go back to it. What are what's the differences for first responders if you have microwave versus fiber?
Go ahead.
I was waiting, sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. So
We do it all the time.
with fiber, we're going to have greater opportunity for there to be disconnect from the state system. So with microwave, we have to worry about something called fade, and so the microwave trajectory will kind of fade based off of sun and atmospheric conditions. It happens. But with fiber, we're going to have to be worried about every backhoe between where the fiber is really, where the nid or the nodule for the fiber is located, and how far we actually have to trench to get to those sites.
So it's kind of missing the point of, the purpose of the tower is to connect with all of these networks, and it would just not be the same infrastructure.
And then,
I've been out of cell phone service in Nashville for like 16 hours.
Do you have
that's why you
Verizon?
don't return my calls?
Do you have Verizon? Is
I have
Verizon-
Sprint.
Okay.
AT&T.
So they're currently going through a process where they're degrading their 3G network.
Oh, it's degraded.
And they're upgrading their 5G network, and so that's been service impactful, specifically in so from Woodland down, specifically in that portion of the county.
Right through District 5. So, but if I'm hearing this right, you would have a lot more opportunities for the static or the disconnect between law enforcement.
An absolute disconnection from connectivity to the state. So the tower would essentially go into what's called site trunking. So the tower would stand alone. It would not be connected to the state system.
Why are we building it?
Yeah. The other thing is, and I want to make sure everyone understands, is if we build this tower with fiber connectivity, when I come up with the funding mechanism for even one more tower, we will have to migrate to microwave.
So it would be a Band-Aid solution for a new project that we're just rolling out.
I referred to it as a stopgap solution, yes.
Yeah.
Also, there's a cost every year for fiber. And if we did it, we'd have to do it from the tower we have in Nashville. Right?
Correct.
And this tower.
Correct.
Which would be roughly, if I'm going by memory, so be careful. I think it was $25,000 a year we'd have to pay for the
So
fiber.
this fiber option just feels like something totally different than what we heard at the public forum, the original proposal.
Correct. It is.
What are the board's thoughts? Do we agree that we need to stick with microwave or not do anything at all?
Correct.
That's what the proposal was.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Money-wise. Michael, do we get rebate checks from our Municipal Risk Association every so often? I thought we had somewhere around $250,000 sitting in escrow.
Yeah, we do. That just gets deposited into our loss fund for high deductible claims that we might have, catastrophic losses down the road. So funds that they are available if the board wanted to or needed to.
The reason that I'm leaning, I personally feel that we should look into local funds first is because the ARPA money is shrinking with inflation. And if we have the stopgap solution, we are going to have less funds to go forward to round two. $350,000 is, I think we could come up with that in the county budget. But I'm open to thoughts or ideas. What are the board's wishes? Should we look at using ARPA funds or look somewhere else?
What about the diverted felons?
What is the purpose of the diverted felons fund? I know what we use it for, but does it have a definition?
It does not. Those are funds that we receive. The Office of Community Corrections operates a program that diverts individuals from prison to jail, offenders who are on what are called kind of a strata-cell, that are at that 1 year sentencing. They stay could go to prison, but the state has incentivized counties to keep them locally by reimbursing. I wanted to say it's $35 a day, $37 a day, it's something, but there's a reimbursement that exists. Those funds come to the county and could be placed into the general fund. Historically, we have put them into what's called the Diverted Felons Fund. It's a special revenue fund, and used those funds for purposes related to either law enforcement, the jail, or the courts, the two entities that are the folks that, without them being involved, we wouldn't, if the courts weren't willing to divert, we wouldn't receive the revenue, and if you know, it puts a pressure on the jail, not that they have a choice, but, so we've used those funds over time for projects, larger capital projects related to either the courts or the jail.
Thank you, Michael.
And court, as well as then court security. We have not, as we've moved to data processing and building rehabilitation fund, we haven't, the pressure against those funds hasn't been as great as it was initially when we didn't have those funds. But that's what.
What's the balance?
Kind of around.
It's kind of law enforcement. I mean, we're talking about the connectivity with the sheriff's
Yeah,
department.
it's the savings that we get from diverting felons.
Right. So, I mean, I'm just,
While Michael's looking it up, Dave, do you have thoughts?
I'd like to know what the balance of that fund is. Because I think.
the diverted felons?
Yeah, diverted balance, but I think there's probably an opportunity.
I think your mic's muted.
There's probably an opportunity to combine some of this. If you wanted to take 180 of ARPA, 100,000 out of diverted felons, and then 100,000 out of our state refund, you can balance that out and not put a significant hit on any one of those funds. I am cognizant of the fact that inflation is eating up some of those ARPA expenditures, so going forward, it'd be nice to kind of protect those funds, but still, this was funded by ARPA to start with. So, and we did make the commitment to the project. I figured there was going to be some hiccups like this in there, so, I mean, I don't have a problem.
You mean that happens in business sometimes?
Yeah.
Can't spend what you don't have.
So that's a good idea, Dave, or a good point, that this was an ARPA project.
An ARPA project.
Anybody else?
And $669,577 was the fund balance as of December 31 of 2020. We don't have the 2021 fund balance yet.
That's 669.
557.
Thank you.
We haven't used that fund in a while. John, do you have anything?
I guess my thoughts are along the lines with Dave, that it was ARPA money, but I want to get this project done, so I'm not going to turn down anything. But do you happen to know offhand, Ben, how close are we to the half point? Half of ARPA was approximately 6 million, right?
Mm-hmm.
Are we over the 6 million?
We're right at 6 million. We're at.
I thought we were under.
We're under by a few $1,000, but we have not gone over 6 million to my knowledge. Have we?
We got 52,000 left.
52,000.
Oh, okay.
So let's say we got 52. How much is that rebate check?
Most recent one, I don't recall, Ben.
No, it's gaining interest, so I guess we don't. What is that? How much did you propose, Dave, using out of ARPA?
180,000 and the change to 714.
What are the board's wishes? Sounds like a plan to me.
It would be 100 out of diverted felons and 100 out of MMRMA?
And that still leaves you over $500,000 in diverted felons that we can certainly use that as an application for the jail, if so desired going forward.
But right now, we don't have that $180,000 in the ARPA.
All right.
Stephanie, when is the anticipated expenditure? I mean, this is not going to put the tower up tomorrow, so.
No, I have to have the contract signed and executed by March 29th, but it still has to go before the 911 board. And so there's a payment schedule. There's a payment schedule that's like section 5.2 of that lengthy contract that you got. And so only a certain percentage is due upon, I think it was 30 days. Is it 30 days, Bill? Yeah, 30 days. 30 days a percentage is due, and then there's milestone payments in there as milestones are met on the project. So the entire amount isn't due March 29th.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is, if the board is comfortable with Dave's solution, we're going to temporarily table this item. We're going to move on, and then once we get a motion with the specific funding plan, we'll bring it back up. Today, absolutely.
Will you find out from Michael what that last refund check was, or?
Yeah. So we need a motion that, actually, if there's no objection, the board will take a 3-minute recess. Hearing no objection, we're at recess. Of the pending question until after item D. Is there any objection?
No objection.
Hearing
No
none,
objection.
the question is tabled. At this time, the chair to entertain a motion for approval of map change A22-2022 from low-density residential to general commercial GC in Section 7 of Berry Township.
Second.
That motion is made by Gibson. Is there support?
Also,
Who, you want to make that motion?
Yes.
Motion is made by Gibson, supported by Campbell. Discussion. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning. Thank you for letting me come up. So this is a map change in Delton, just north of Bowen's Restaurant, to change from low-density residential to a general commercial. I know Mr. Miller spoke to you during public comment, but the area is in an urban development planning area. It is adjacent to other mixed-use zoning categories, although there is low-density residential for the houses in the immediate vicinity. Planning Commission held a public hearing. There were comments on both sides of the board. Planning Commission voted 6-1 to recommend approval to you, and it does meet all the requirements for approval.
Vice Chair Connor, you sit on the Planning Commission. Do you have any comments?
It's a nice plan. I mean, he intends to do a boat dealership handling used vessels and also some service, and then down the road, some structures to store boats in, which is a need that, a great need in this area with all the lakes that we have in that area. He doesn't plan to be in competition with, he's retired from Gull Lake Marina, and he doesn't intend to be competitive with them. This is just his retirement project. And there was previous commercial activity in that area. And in order to provide this need in the community, he needed to change it to commercial for adding that much footage, especially for storage.
Dave, you're a Deltonian. Does this gel with you?
I went and looked at the particular parcels in question here, and actually had a little bit of a conversation with Kevin, because there is some residential in the area. Hopefully when the site plan comes in together, there'll be some protection for the houses on each side, but it is definitely surrounded with mixed use buildings, industrial. There's a lot of businesses in that area as well. And you said this is part of the urban. Okay. So I think if Mr. Miller executes the plan, has the respect for the neighborhood, I don't see a problem with how this is set up.
Yeah, he will be coming back for site plan review if this were to be approved.
Okay. Questions or comments additionally? Hearing none, the question before the board is approval of map change A2-2022 from low-density residential to general commercial GC in Section 7 of Berry Township. The clerk will call the roll.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smoker.
Aye.
Campbell.
aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The map change is approved.
Thank you.
Anchors away. Good luck to you.
Been waiting for that, haven't you?
The
Thanks
hoist.
very much, I appreciate that, and I hope to be a valued member of the community for Delton and for Berry County.
All right.
Thank you.
You got that motion? Yeah. I think we're still working on it. If there's no objection, we'll continue on the agenda down to item E. Hearing no objection, Commissioner can proceed.
I move for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Berry County Central Dispatch Authority.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, supported by Gibson, for the approval of subrecipient agreement for the American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Berry County Central Dispatch Authority. Discussion. So this
What
agreement,
did you just read?
this is the contract for the
I
Central
thought you said
Dispatch.
Central Dispatch Authority.
Well, yeah, that's what it
Yeah,
is.
it is.
It's item E.
Oh, we're going back to E. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they're
I'm
not
lost
done
here.
with that motion yet. So does,
But, Mr. Chairman, that contract assumes is not the amended contract price. So you really need to.
Yes.
I apologize, you need to do this motion first,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
so that you can then, with that one, amend it.
so we didn't amend the, okay.
I did not make that presumption. No.
Chair would entertain the chair would ask the sponsor to withdraw the motion.
So moved.
Consent.
Agreed.
It was Gibson and Smelker?
I think it was Bruce and who?
Campbell.
Campbell.
I agree to it, man.
All right, the motion is withdrawn. Let's get to that motion on the tower price.
I think that looks correct.
So without objection, the board will now consider taking from the table item C. Hearing no objection, will be considered. The question now before the board is approval of additional $380,714 from the American Rescue Plan Act funds for the public safety 800 megahertz infrastructure project due to inflationary increases from Motorola between the budget estimate of $2.4 million and the final construction contract price of $2,780,714. Chair to entertain a motion to amend the item before the board to include with funds to be paid from the following sources: $180,714 from the American Rescue Plan Act funds, $100,000 from the Diverted Felons Fund, and $100,000 from the MMRMA distribution funds.
Support?
I need that amendment made.
Oh, so moved.
Support.
Motion by Smelker, supported by Getty, to offer the said amendment. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in, I'm sorry.
So this says 714, this says 719.
That says 380 and that says 380.
719 and 714.
It's 14.
Is it 14?
714.
Okay. Down on this line, it said 719.
$2,780,714.
714.
Nice catch. Vivian just saved us $5.
I just was looking at that, so. And then, would you read those again? On
Yeah,
the
I have to
totals?
read them because you asked a question.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, the question before the board is amending the motion on the floor to include the following, with funds to be paid from the following sources: $180,714 from the American Rescue Plan Act funds, $100,000 from the Diverted Felons Fund, and $100,000 from MMRMA distribution funds. On the question of the amendment, the clerk will call the roll.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor.
No.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The amendment is approved. The question now before the board is approval of an additional $380,714 from the American Rescue Plan Act funds for public safety 800 megahertz infrastructure project due to inflationary increases from Motorola between the budget estimate of $2.4 million and the final construction contract price of $2,780,714, with funds to be paid from the following sources: $180,714 from the American Rescue Plan Act funds, $100,000 from the Divergent Felons Fund, and $100,000 from the MMRMA distribution funds. Discussion. This is the right thing to do.
Just want to make a clarification real quick that
Don't make me read that again, Michael.
Well, and not to complicate things, but we'll only be taking $180,714 from the American Rescue Plan Act funds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Yep, that's clear.
We're good with that on the motion. That.
Okay. Here, any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. The clerk call the roll.
Smelker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor.
No.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye, the item is approved.
Thank you.
Without objection, the board will now take up item E. Hearing no objection, will proceed. Commissioner Campbell.
I move for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Berry County Central Dispatch Authority.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, supported by Gibson, for the approval of subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Berry County Central Dispatch Authority. Discussion. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. If I may, because you have a couple of these contracts in rapid succession, at the last board meeting, there were requests for considered changes from 3 commissioners, and so we've incorporated into the agreements that are before you this morning those changes. Briefly, they would include, I think it was Commissioner Jackson, suggested that we have a shortened time period in which the subrecipients would be able to incur obligations, moving it up from December 30 of 2024. It's now in these agreements, the deadline is June 30, 2024, such that if they fail to incur obligations by that June 30 date, then the county would have time to reallocate those funds so they wouldn't be lost. I believe it was Commissioner, incidentally, that's change is found in paragraph 6A of the revised agreement for all of these agreements.
Mark, if it's okay with you, what I'd like to do as the board, if you have questions on any of these contracts, let's take care of them now, and then we'll just get through the voting after it.
Second comment, I believe, was from Commissioner Smelker about providing language where the subrecipient would be responsible to provide for ongoing operation, maintenance, repair, replacement, providing for the sustainability of the project that's being funded through county ARPA funds. And so we added that language in paragraph 1D, as in David. And then I believe there was a comment by Commissioner Getty allowing for essentially changes in the scope of the project through design, engineering, construction, cost savings, implementation that would result in kind of providing for an expansion of the project than what was originally contemplated at the time the application was submitted. For example, on the trail project, that through different construction means or something like that, you could pave or extend the trail, improve the trail for a greater distance than what had been included in the application. So we've included language in paragraph 1C of the agreement that would allow for expansion, basically, of the project scope to provide greater benefit, bang for the buck, if you will, with the county funds. So those were the changes that were communicated to me and the changes that have been made. And again, those have been made throughout all of these proposed subrecipient agreements. I guess with respect to the proposed agreement for the tower, I would just note then that the stated dollar amount of the contract would increase from $2.4 million to what the commission just authorized, the $2,580,714. So that change would be made and reflected.
Questions on contracts? And for anybody that wants to read them themselves, if you have trouble getting to sleep, not that Mark doesn't do excellent legal work, go to berrycounty.org/ARPA. Commissioner Connor.
So you said the first item on the June was 6A, but did you mean 4A?
In the June?
It does show up in 4A and 6A.
Okay.
Yes, in terms of advancing or moving up the deadline for a subrecipient to incur the expenditure.
Thank you.
Additional questions on this contract? All right. If there's no further questions, we'll proceed to vote on the item. Everybody knows the motion? Clerk will call the roll.
Campbell.
Aye.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelter.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The item is approved. Item F.
I move for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and Berry Township.
Support.
Motion by Campbell, supported by Jackson for the approval of approval of a subrecipient agreement for the American Rescue Plan Act funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and Berry Township. Discussion? Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
Connor.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelter.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye. The item is approved.
I move for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Berry County Parks and Recreation Commission.
Okay.
Motion by Campbell, supported by Gibson, for the approval of subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Berry County Parks and Recreation Commission. Discussion? Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelter.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye, the item is approved.
I move for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Berry County Road Commission.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, supported by Gibson, for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A. What?
Connor.
What did I say?
Gibson?
Take it all back. The wonderful-looking woman to my right. Move for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Berry County Road Commission. Discussion. Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye, the item is approved.
I move for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Village of Freeport.
Support.
I see him too. Let's get this right. Motion by Campbell, support by Smelka, for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including reporting requirements, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Village of Freeport. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye, the item is approved.
I move for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and Berry Community Foundation.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, support by Gibson, for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and the Berry Community Foundation. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
Smelker.
Aye.
Campbell.
Aye.
Connor.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye, the item is approved.
I move for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and Rutland Charter Township.
Second.
Motion by Campbell, supported by Getty, for the approval of the subrecipient agreement for American Rescue Plan Act SLFRF funds, including Exhibit A, subrecipient's application, Exhibit B, eligible use of SLFRF funds, and Exhibit C, SLFRF reporting requirements between the County of Berry and Rutland Charter Township. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk call the roll.
Campbell. Aye. Connor.
Aye.
Getty.
Aye.
Gibson.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Smelker.
Aye.
Geiger.
Aye, the item is approved. Thank you, Mark. We have no unfinished business. We have no new business. And the county administrator's report?
I'm all set, thank you.
I don't have a report. It's been a long day. Good work, guys. Vice Chairperson's report.
Thank you. Just to make a note, you'll see at the bottom of the agenda that we won't be meeting for the next 2 weeks. So April 5th is our next committee of the whole. We have a conference with Michigan Association of Counties next week. Things that I've attended: Prairieville Township approved their employee salaries and their budget for 22-23. Yankee Springs had regular business. I advised my 3 townships about the Parks and Rec mini grant program. Catherine, I made sure that they all had a copy of that. So, just wanted to cover that. Planning Commission, we had the map change that was before you today, and we also approved a greenhouse at Grace Community Church in Nashville, and that's for educational only, not for commercial sales. And last night, we tabled a special use permit to operate a mine in Orangeville Township to April 25th. Solid Waste Oversight Committee, updates were given on all of the things we've currently got going on, updating the mini grant program application, recycling coordinator contract, extension program, annual report to commissioners. I had last month reported that it would be given in April. We're going to extend that out now till May. And the Household Hazardous Waste event on May 21st. We've got more information to follow on that, but updates were given on all of those things. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner reports, we'll start with Commissioner Gibson.
I'm all set.
Commissioner Jackson.
Economic Development was last Wednesday. Had quite a discussion on housing in the community. And Mr. White made the comment about the potential property in Nashville. We've had a housing subcommittee within the Chamber EDA for over 3 years that does nothing but evaluates that, and they've had their hands in every project that they've seen go up. So if there's a potential for that, I don't know. I mean, I'll take that information, but if you want to provide that information to Jennifer Heinzman at the Chamber and EDA, that would be something I'm sure she'd be more than willing to look into as well. So,
Before we leave housing for a little minute, did you guys discuss Royal Coach?
Yes, quite the issue going on. There is one person at the state level who viewed, after multiple approvals, viewed the map of the coach and decided that they didn't like the proximity of that building to the manufacturing. So even though there is other residential all around that, for whatever reason, they didn't like this project. So there is literally one person holding this up. As many of you know, Governor Whitmer was in town last week. That was one of the discussions. Ms. Callie's involved in this, Rep. Callie's involved in this discussion, and they are asking for any letters of support to go there to help that project go through, because there is over $500,000 of investment that's already put in on behalf of the developer, the Berry Community Foundation, to move that project forward. And it's literally being stalled by an individual who just had a bad dream about the site and the proximity to the manufacturing.
It's a travesty. I mean, what worse could already have happened to that site? I mean, it survived arson. I mean, it's just, we can't let crime win in this one.
Yeah, they're not manufacturing munitions, they're manufacturing piston rings, right? So it's not like this is a dangerous setup here, and it's got a good reputation for that manufacturing facility. It's been there for years and years. So
if there's no objection, I'd like to send a letter on behalf of the board.
We should send a letter on behalf of the board.
Support that.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Dave.
So, also attended Rutland Charter Township. They had a lively discussion on a impending blight ordinance that was going through their second reading, and that drew one of the larger crowds I've ever seen at Rutland Township, and the board decided to tap the brakes on that and reconsider, because although they tried to make it more detailed, it brought a lot more questions up. So thanks to support for several people in this audience. And as Vivian mentioned, solid waste oversight was Friday. That was my second meeting on solid waste oversight, and we haven't had quite this discussion yet, but there's some great people on that have vision and passion for recycling in the county. However, it tends to pinball around quite a bit, and I think we need to continue to try to focus the energy of those people to move in the right direction with the plan going forward, because it was a 2.5-hour meeting that I think probably could have been done in a little over an hour. So frustration, passion, we'll just have to keep working on that. And then Animal Shelter Advisory Board is tonight at 6 o'clock.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks.
Commissioner Campbell.
I did complete my township meetings for the month: Maple Grove, Baltimore, Johnstown, and Assyria. Discussion on the ARPA funds are still ongoing. It seems like all four townships are leaning towards putting some of their money towards the roads. I'm sure that will come as a nice surprise for the road commission. And also, I did, as asked by Dan Patton, pursue very aggressively the applications for mini grant, of which I was returned the fact that 3 of the townships have no parks, and one of them appears to possibly be putting in an application for an area around their general township area there, where they've discussed something of a park there later. So that's where we're at.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Getty.
I attended Thornapple Township last night. We had a broadband meeting and reviewed a draft report. I think we'll have that finalized in the next week, 2 weeks maybe.
Great. Look forward to reading it. And Commissioner Smelker.
Attended Carlton, Freeport, and last night, and Irving tonight. And in our little books with all the numbers and stuff, Irving Township is now on Tuesday nights. And
we'll update that for the next
that come up in Carlton's meeting. And Freeport firemen are having a pancake breakfast Saturday.
What time?
8 to 11 if you're looking for answers.
Thank you.
What was it?
8 to 11, Freeport. And we'll give an update on Woodland. Last night, the Village of Woodland took a step toward entering an agreement to have the county take over the zoning responsibilities. And so part of the agreement that this board worked out last year was the provision that the Village of Woodland would get to have a say in what the map looked like. So that's what they did last night, defined the boundaries of where a reasonable commercial zone would be and residential. And so that's moving forward. They're very excited about partnering with the county. Limited public comment. At this time, any member of the public wishing to address the board may do so for up to 3 minutes.
Hello, Gary White again, Village of Nashville. Inflation, we've been talking about it. Prices are going up. The jail started out at about $8 million when it was first brought in. I think it was around $25, $26 million when it was on the 2020 ballot that failed. Now it's 36, 38 million. And once again, when are you going to take action on the jail? Self-funding. We heard about the pots of money you have today. Maybe you need to look and see what your regulated monies are, what your non-regulated are, what your designated are. Look at your bond rating that we hear so much about and start moving on a jail. I guess as a senior on a fixed income, I can't afford another millage. Don't want to see another millage. There's enough. There's going to be 3 township millages coming up for renewal this coming year in Castleton Township. So putting another millage in an August ballot, does that jeopardize those millages there? I still think this jail should have been completed by the county years ago instead of keep on putting up, well, we want more money to use. As I said, the ARPA funds, you're talking second round still. Do you have county needs? Why are we talking second round instead of saying, geez, how should we utilize these funds to get us in some places where we need to be as a county that you folks oversee? I'm just sitting here wondering, then your agenda. Talked about that. You don't want to talk about how to restructure yourselves, how to reorganize. I don't think your agenda lets you recognize or allow that. I go to meetings quite a bit. It's nice to have interaction. or at least say, we can't interact, but we will answer your questions, or we'll have comment at the end of the meeting on what people say. So you're too, I don't know, let's talk to one person and hope he moves it to the agenda? Or should you be bouncing ideas off each other? Have a place on your agenda where you do bounce the ideas, where you ask a question, this came up to me, what do you think? You need to have an open section in your agenda just for ideas. My personal opinion, if you are a private corporate board, you'd be failing because you have a vast knowledge of things and you don't use it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Hello, Chuck Christopher, City of Hastings. How are we doing? I'm going to go back to the Blue Zones thing. You know, Blue Zones is here to help make us all live longer. They want us to live healthier and stuff. They have all kinds of recommendations and stuff, and they talk about working with the local farmers. But when you go to their website, they tell you that eating meat, chicken, eggs, and stuff is all bad. So how does that help local farmers who raise pigs, hogs, beef, whatever? You know? They don't take that into consideration, I don't think. I know a lot of their menus on there show vegetables we can't even grow in Michigan. They have to come in from other countries and stuff. So I'm still a little bit nervous about this whole thing. Plus, now if we're going to make people live longer and healthier, what are we going to do about the Commission on Aging? They don't have enough. They got troubles out there. They can't even get a good kitchen to make food in. They have to bring it from Grand Rapids. And I know several people who quit getting the food from Meals on Wheels because it tastes like crap. You know, and we provide the food to them. I'm part of that. So I'm just saying that, you know, maybe it's a good concept and stuff, but maybe we really should look at it. We're paying $1 million to pave a walking trail that people can walk on just because dirt doesn't make a difference, and yet we don't do anything for Commission on Aging. You know, I mean, if we're going to live longer, we need to be taken care of. You know, some people at 90 years old can't drive anymore, but they still are alive and living. So, and I've had people say to me, you know, I have to pay to use my boat, I have to pay to use my ATV and stuff, so why do I also have to pay for somebody else to walk on a trail? Think about it. You know, nobody helps them with their licensing fees or their RTV, OTV, and all the license and the fees they have to give to run their vehicles. Why do they have to pay for a walking trail? Not everybody uses walking trails. Not everybody uses the county parks. It's nice having county parks. I take my grandkids out there when they come and visit. But, you know, I think that some of this could be relooked at. You know, $1 million could have done something nice for COA. It really could have, in my opinion. You know. But anyways, I just wanted to share that thought, some more information, because, you know, time limits, you can't only say everything so much at one time. But thank you.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Pat Jameson, Bowens Mills. I'm just on the whole Blue Zone thing. Sounds like a good idea. But why is the government getting involved now? You know, all the funding and that, and donations, there's a lot of anonymous donations for like $200,000. So why do you need $100,000 out of my pocket as taxpayers? To, you know, it should be a fully philanthropic venture. Because you're talking about a farmer's market. If I make pickles at my house, can I sell them there? Probably not. If it's like anything like the Middleville Farmer's Market. 8 pages of rules for a farmer's market? Are you people kidding me? That's freaking insane.
I'm going to pause that. All right, if we go forward with the farmer's market, there should not be 8 pages of rules.
Well, there's going to be more. You need $100,000 just to do a study.
Right. Well, I'd encourage you to talk with, after the meeting. If you do sell pickles, we want this to be a...
I want to sell pickles. I want to be the only supplier for the Blue Zones, please, for pickles.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jameson. Is there further public comment?
Hello, Madam Michaela. I want to compete with that guy with the pickles. I'm going to compete with him because we make pickles in my house too. So, So a lot of talk about all this money again. I don't know if you guys know the numbers. I mean, the inflation, I mean, we're right on just the beginning part of this. When you look at the statistics, you all can look it up yourself, write it down, the M1 money supply. Look up the chart. Do you guys know what it is? Anyone knows? M1 money supply, okay? It's how much money is out there and available, liquid assets available, things that are in bank accounts. All the money that they just created out of nothing in 1 month back in 2020. You look at the chart. We were at $4.775 trillion in the month of April. Then in the month of May, it went to $16.26 trillion. 70% of the money available was created in 1 month. 1 month. So we can blame Russia for inflation right now. We can blame, this, that, or the other thing. But it's the money that you all are fighting over that we've been saying is money that we need to understand how to not be dependent upon, how to not work towards and build up all of the nonprofit organizations and foundations and groups that are not actually truly for the community. When you understand and learn that system, that industry that pays $68,000, almost $100,000 just for studies. What truly is going into a study that costs that amount? That you're telling me that people from the community can't come out and truly do this work? It's because most of the people don't come to these things and participate with you guys because they don't get feedback or participation in any way. Just like all the other boards that we go to, it's the same problem. That's why I keep coming and just saying a lot of the same things, right? So we want to see that activity from you to be different now, to become a representative instead of a political board using political powers to rule over the people. You need to represent the people. So I'm not hearing any ways of going forward right now that we can be independent in this community, to grow for independence in this community, so that we can truly from here grow out of all of the struggle that's being created by outside forces. Do you understand? Does that make sense? Because these are outside forces that have created this hardship for us, but we need to come together as a community away from them if we're going to actually strive and be strong and survive this ultimately.
Thank you. Is there further public comment?
Thing that does that all next.
Larry Bass, Carlton Township, just to let you know, I'm not getting pickles this year. So, a couple things. There's a lot of questions put to the board today, and I hope all those people get answers to their questions, if not public and private. That's very important. It's been said a couple of times. Number two, I got a feeling that this inflationary hit that the tower took is going to be only the first time that some of these ARPA funds folks are going to come to you. I see three different items. You got the water tower in Berry Township, you got the water tower in the village of Freeport, and probably something on the trails. So I'd just like to know sometime by April 2nd what your strategy is going to be when that happens, because it's going to happen. People that have talked are right. This inflation is not going to stop. It's going to keep getting bigger and bigger, and it's mostly materials. And every one of these projects is going to take materials. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there further public comment? All right, moving to other business. I will respond to some of the questions we heard today. Vice Chair Connor can back me up on this. We did meet to discuss what the next steps with the jail are. We did want to have it on this week's agenda, but there was still some information we needed to gather so the board could make a proper decision on whether they wanted to put a millage up. So the deadline to put something on the ballot is May 10th, correct?
Mm-hmm. I believe so.
So we thought April 5th would be a good time to lead that discussion. Because that is a time-sensitive issue, we want to put that before discussion of spending or allocating the rest of the ARPA funds. The reason that we started this process early because we knew there was going to be inflationary pressures, and we can see now that there are. So we have not forgot about the jail. We haven't forgot about the other local governments that want to submit applications, and we haven't forgot about the COA. But the first thing we got to talk about is the jail. So with that, we've reached the end of our agenda. If there is no discussion or no objection, the board will now adjourn. Board is adjourned.